it seems like this whole thing is about paperwork, and it should be something that DOJ should be able to work out with lawyers. I think raiding the home of your leading political rival is something that you see in third world countries, and it seems like it's something that, again, the FBI has a lot of trust that they need to build back with the American people before they could be used in ways like this.
Jared Kushner joins us now live from Florida. Jared, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be with you.
Jared, before we get to your book, I want to ask you about some of the latest information coming out of Mar-a-Lago and the FBI investigation of your father-in-law. The stress just never stops for anybody associated with the Trump administration. The FBI now has released, as a part of a filing contesting the possible appointment of a special master, a photograph from inside your father-in-law's office at Mar-a-Lago. It shows these papers, classified papers, lying about the floor of the office. Byron York of the Washington Examiner issued a tweet today, and he said this, and I'll read it to you, and I want to get your reaction. So, a question: is that the way the documents were kept? The DOJ filing refers to Attachment F as redacted FBI photograph of certain documents and classified cover sheets recovered from a container in the 45 office. So these documents were allegedly inside a container. How did the FBI find them on the floor? Did they place them on the floor for public relations purposes to take a photograph of them?
Yeah, I don't know how they got to the floor, but what I do know is that, again, I write in my book extensively about what it was like being under investigation by then special counsel, the House, the Senate, being accused of colluding with Russia, right? That was the first initial investigation. Trump was an outsider. They didn't want him in Washington, but he won the election, and he went there and he governed like an outsider. And we were accused of all different kinds of things and had to work through that. And what they would do is constantly leak different things to the same people in the media who are getting the leaks to now, saying all these crazy things, and then these things would then be disproven very short time later. So again, I don't know how those documents got on the floor there or why they're portraying it the way, but it seems like this whole thing is about paperwork, and it should be something that DOJ should be able to work out with lawyers. I think raiding the home of your leading political rival is something that you see in third world countries, and it seems like it's something that, again, the FBI has a lot of trust that they need to build back with the American people before they could be used in ways like this. So I think it's very deeply disturbing to see what's happening by a lot of people. And I think we should have a deep politicization of the Justice Department in a very big way.
On the subject of these just constant investigations by federal authorities of the Trump administration, you write very early on in your book, quote, "The New York Times published one of the most unfair stories in its history. The heads of Obama's intelligence agencies, CIA Director John Brennan, Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, and FBI Director Jim Comey had come to Trump Tower to give the president-elect his first intelligence briefing. As the meeting wrapped up, Comey pulled the president aside and told him about the existence of a notorious Christopher Steele dossier, a salacious and patently false file that we later learned to be funded by the DNC, the Democratic National Committee." And then you go on to say, "Watching this unfold, I mostly dismissed this claim because I knew that they were baseless. A credible media would realize that too, I thought." How wrong you were. How wrong you were.
That was one of my biggest surprises, right? Growing up in the world, you think that the New York Times, the Washington Post are these bastions of journalistic integrity, and CNN and MSNBC would have some standards. And I thought that this allegation was so outrageous. Again, I'd been on the campaign. It was a very small campaign. It was really Trump, his family, and a couple aides. And I thought it would get dismissed very quickly, but I had I couldn't have imagined that it would become this object of fascination, that it captured the whole world for 2 years and put a whole cloud over President Trump's governing. And again, we talk about how the FBI, leaking that to the press, and how they worked to, get a special counsel, and how they falsified affidavits in order to get a FISA warrant to spy on people in Trump's campaign. I mean, this was a very dark moment in the history of the DOJ. And unfortunately, I think that it's something that they've done before. Again, Trump was an outsider. He governed like an outsider. And the people in Washington, they really fought him very hard. And that's what I write about in my book extensively about.
And how much damage did it do to the functioning of the White House in those first 2 or 3 years?
It was incredibly damaging. First of all, you have a lot of people who come in, they want to serve their country. They're all enthusiastic about it. They come in, they're getting subpoenas. Now, instead of, they're already taking pay cuts to go work in the government, but now they have to go and spend money to hire lawyers. And then you're getting, you can't talk to this person. You can't. It creates a lot of distrust. And then the media is leaking these things every day that can create a lot of psychological stress for people. So again, for me, it was I'd seen my father go through an investigation earlier in my life, and I knew that we'd done nothing wrong, so I hired good lawyers and I made sure that we fought through. And so the ticking time clock in this book, which is really in the background of every story, is the race between the people who are trying to stop you from getting things done with investigations or with false media leaks or accusations. And all the different policy priorities. I really tried to show people, again, it wasn't an accident that President Trump got the biggest tax cuts in history done, the biggest trade deals in history done, peace deals in the Middle East, the fastest vaccine in history. And by getting all that stuff done, it wasn't an accident. It took a lot of work. And I tried really hard to show how that happened in the face of such a historic onslaught of opposition.
It's fascinating to me, the divisions in this country which exist right now, and the stress that you were under during that administration continues to this very day. This is an ongoing FBI investigation. The affidavit that we saw is so heavily redacted that we now know that there are probably other people who are going to face investigation. Are you concerned that you're still under investigation and the Trump children are under investigation?
No, I don't believe so. And, it's funny, we voluntarily went for the congressional hearings when they asked us. We have nothing to hide. Again, I think that my record in government I'm very proud of. I guess also why I put this book out. Again, we accomplished a lot of things that people thought we wouldn't have been able to accomplish. And again, over all these years, I think I've done now, it's like over 26 hours of congressional testimony that I've done all voluntarily, including special counsel. And again, nothing to hide, very proud of it. But they have accused us at this point of probably every single thing in the book that you can get accused of. And again, nothing has proven to land.
Is it possible that Trump has in his possession documents which implicate the FBI or the Department of Justice in malfeasance? And that's what they're after.
I don't know. I don't know what documents he has or doesn't have. But like I said, I think with Trump, he went to Washington and they played a lot of nasty games to try to get him. But what he was really most focused on was doing the business of the American people. And there's one scene I write about in the book where he's giving a speech on the Middle East, and he's about to do it. He's reviewing the speech, and he's remarking on all the things he did. When he got into office, ISIS had a caliphate the size of Ohio. He got out of the Iran deal. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem, all very controversial things that were realigning a Middle East that became a big problem to a place of big opportunity. And President Trump turns to me and he says, Jared, the being president part is actually easy. It's the whole dealing with all the crazies and the investigations that unfortunately takes up so much time that holds us back from getting things done that we would be getting done otherwise. So, so again, I think that.
Are you resentful at all that the media continues to diminish some of those accomplishments? And in fact, you were a key player in a lot of them, from Operation Warp Speed, the development of these vaccines that allowed this country to get back to a semblance of normal functioning, a key player in the Abraham Accords, again, which continues to be diminished. And in fact, I wonder, in some respects, why you even wrote the book, because it's basically guaranteed that you're going to be trashed by reviewers in the New York Times, in the Washington Post, and that's precisely what's happened. I read a couple of the reviews of your book in both of those publications. It's kind of laughable in the way that they avoid some of those accomplishments. And then the icing on the cake, at least for you, is that today we learn your book is now on the New York Times bestseller list.
Yeah, so the best way to win is just to win. And I think in the book I write about how I had certain biases coming from the Upper East Side of New York and, based on my experiences. And I write about how I explored those biases. I confronted them. I tried to go deeper into the issues. But unfortunately, for a lot of people in the media, they're not really in touch with their own biases, and they continue to show. And so, look, the reviews they did, I think, just helped me sell more books and get the real story out. I wrote this book because I wanted people to understand what happened. But unfortunately, the book doesn't conform with the narrative that they tried to push for 4 years, which was that, Trump was they said if Trump was elected, it was going to lead to World War III. If Trump implemented his economic policies, it was going to lead to a recession. Well, the opposite happened, right? He was the first president in decades to not start new wars. He made 6 peace deals over time. I write in the book extensively how that happened. I write about how he dealt with foreign leaders who they said was bad to not have wars. Again, President Trump dealt with Russia. We had no problems with Russia in 4 years. Now you have a war in Ukraine, and he dealt with President Xi in China, very strongly, and we had no problems with Taiwan. Now China's being provocative with Taiwan. And then most importantly, with the economy, President Trump had the economy, running. Inflation was low, gas prices were low, wages were rising, the wealth gap in our country was shrinking. And this was all because of good management. And the media just was wrong and wrong and wrong. But unfortunately, there's not a lot of accountability. I mean, they were all wrong about the 2016 election, but nobody lost their jobs. Like if they were at a hedge fund, then you kind of lost money on a trade. So I think that people have given up in terms of a lot of the media's credibility. And I think that, I wrote this book because I want people to know what really happened. And I feel like it's important for history. President Trump did a lot of things that traditional politicians wouldn't do. He was an outsider. He was a businessman. He took a different approach. And I tried to do the same when I worked with him. And so I think what Washington needs is more people who are not from Washington, who are not going to try to play the game the way that the Washington critics who are, want them to. And that's how you bring real change that impacts people's lives very positively.
Hi, I'm Doug McKelway, and thank you for watching Centerpoint. We hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Leave a comment below and keep the conversation going by sharing this video with a friend who needs to see it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.